Timer is good to go?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Roberto COF. And I want to tell you a little bit of a personal story. When I was back in high school, I had this biology professor that really, it was my favorite professor. She opened up my mind to biology. I wasn't ever interested in a plant, insects, or what have you, but she really was such a passionate lady that she really showed me how to, understand nature to a different level. There was a time where I asked her, like, okay, you're a scientist, do you believe in evolution or creation? What's the whole deal? She was influencing on me already, and she said something that struck me. She said, you know what, everything is so well designed that it would be bad for me to say otherwise. There is a creator, or there's a form bigger than us. So with that, I'm going to start my main claim. C.S. Lewis stated, you need more faith to be an atheist than to be a Christian. I'm going to support it with 4 points. The first one, theory of evolution is not a scientific method. The second one, science is inconsistent. The third one, the evolution process is based on a series of improbable circumstances. The fourth one, the validity of the Bible. So I'm going for the first one. Theory of evolution is not a scientific method. By definition, you can look in any dictionary. They are very similar in these senses. By definition, evolution is not a scientific method, but only a theory, because a scientific method has to be observed, measured, and experimented upon. And this is just not practical. Who was there? Unless you know about time machine, this is just not practical. It's not feasible. Then I go to my next point, which is science is inconsistent, and this is by nature. You ask to any scientific or any geologist or anybody, he will agree to that. For example, I have a professor of geology, Professor Gary McGavin, here at Cal Poly. He said, yes, science is always changing. And he explains, what is true today might not be really true tomorrow. How do you say that the world is, 2 billion years old, or, whatever it is? You find a rock, and based on that rock and the analysis, you determine a time. Tomorrow, somebody else comes with a different rock, it's, 10 billion years. So basically, with that, to me, the inconsistency of science, it shows me how there's a faith that needs to be involved in order to understand the whole process. I'm going to jump to my next claim, which is the evolution process is based on a series of improbable circumstances. For this, I'm going to quote 2 evolutionists, David Green and Robert Goldenberger, that said in a book, the macromolecular to cell transition is a jump of fantastic dimension, which lays beyond the range of testable hypotheses. What do you guys see there? I mean, in other words, you guys need really a bunch of faith. How much is what British astronomer and physicist at the University of Cambridge, Fred Hoyle, explained. He says that the probability of cellular life evolving was about 1 in 10 to the 40,000. That, whether you know math or not, that is a humongous number. And even to further understand, he adds that the random of that happening is as likely as a Boeing 747 being created by a tornado sweeping through a junkyard. The validity, I'm going to jump to my 4th point, which is the validity of the Bible. In Isaiah 4:22, it talks about he who sits in the circle of the earth. This, again, I want to remind you, is 700 years before Christ came here. There was a book the Bible, where it was stated that the world is round. To me, this is, okay, that's enough evidence. But let's say, okay, I don't believe that. I don't believe in the Bible. Somebody might make that argument. Well, in 1947, manuscripts of the Bible were found, so recently, right, about 70 or so years ago, were found in the Dead Sea. These manuscripts date back to 250 years before Christ was here in the earth. And they are in accordance to the Bible. In other words, you know, just 70 years ago, we found facts, proofs that the Bible is a matter, you know, was written before. So in conclusion, I found no solid facts for the theory of creation and for the theory of evolution. And I see that you need more faith to believe in that than to believe in the creation theory. Thank you so much.
All right, Roberto, I like the opening. I think you've got a nice introduction. It's a little complicated to use the quote as the proposition, but your position is relatively clear. I do think that you might make a better argument, a clearer argument for intelligent design than an attack on evolution, but I think maybe picking one or the other would be the better way to go, and you're trying to do both within the confines of a limited amount of time, and that makes it sort of difficult for you to get through the whole argument. I got the feeling several times that you were skipping over chunks of information and ideas that you wanted to talk about on a couple of points. Like that third point went by really fast, and it felt like there's a lot more to talk about on each of those points, and you're giving us, at best, the thumbnail version of all of those things. I did think that you labeled the secondary points pretty clearly. They're not always phrased as claims, and you want to be consistent on that. Like that third one, the fourth one, is not really a claim. It's just a subject matter. Like I said, I think it takes you off in a different direction. The hypothetical examples are okay. You did a good job citing a lot of testimony. I didn't get dates on much of the testimony, and some of this information might be relatively recent, some of it could be relatively old. It's difficult to tell, and if we're using contemporary data, for instance, in making a contrasting argument, then it's best if we have the dates when that information is being presented. Of course, the respondent's going to have access to that, but as listeners, we should be able to make some judgments there too. I do think that you're making some big inferences on a couple of points with small amounts of information. But it was usually clear what inference you were making and how you were using that information. You want to lose the pen in your hand. You don't need a baton while you're giving your speech. And I did like the fact that you came back at the end and reminded us of the point that you were trying to make during the presentation. All right, thank you.